All right, here we go, guys. Good morning. It's your boy CJ. Welcome to the shop. And today I'm going to show you guys some dynamic stretches that can drastically affect your workout routine. See, the problem is a lot of times we're not getting the optimal performance because we're doing a lot of static stretching. For people who are going in the gym and they're really trying to up their performance, maybe some athletes or just in general, these dynamic stretches and warm-ups are going to put you in the position to actually perform a little bit better without being too loose. So the first three stretches we're going to talk about today is the scoops, we're going to talk about the ankle ups, and the quad stretch, okay? So here's a representation of the scoops. The biggest thing with the scoops is we have to stretch your hamstrings and your calves, okay? Your hamstrings and your calves are right here. How do you perform the exercise? It's pretty simple. All you're doing is coming down and you're scooping, okay? Same thing, you're scooping. You can either walk with them or you can do them in place and scoop, okay? That's gonna actually dynamically warm up your hamstrings and your calves. The next stretch that we're gonna be talking about is your ankle ups. Why are ankle ups so important? I'm glad you asked. A lot of times we're having IT band issues, we're having hip issues, and we're also having some glute issues, right? So the ankle up actually helps us to stretch all those out dynamically and warm them up. We have glutes, hips, and IT bands. The way to perform the stretch is you're taking your ankle and your knee and you're bringing it up. The purpose of this is to also get a little bit more range of motion in that hip. Sometimes that hip is really stuck and we want to be able to kind of turn that around and open it up, right? So all I'm doing is I'm taking my ankle, my knee. I want to try to make the ankle and the knee parallel. It might not be easy at first, but just bring it up and then go to the next one, okay? Last but not least, guys, one of my favorite stretches, really simple, is the quad stretch. Why is the quad stretch so important? A lot of times we're having knee problems. Sometimes we're not being able to run functionally because we have tight quads. We also know that our quads are not too far from our hip flexor, where we do have a hip flexor muscle called the tensor fasciae lata, the TFL, right? So how do we stretch these quadricep muscles before we begin exercise, right? It's simple. All we're doing is we're making sure that these two positions are away from each other. We're lengthening them out. So what you do is you take your knee, keep it pointed down, grab your ankle, raise your hand up, and kick the knee back. Why are we doing that? Here's one of the problems that I see people doing. A lot of times people do the quad stretch, but there seems to be a divot or a hip hinge in the hip, which means we're not properly stretching the quad correctly. So if you guys ever notice, this portion right here, right? If you ever see people try to stretch the quad like this, that's not correct. We want to be able to open it up all the way. So from this point down to my knee, we can open it all the way up. Then you can raise your hand if you want to get even more of a deeper stretch, right? That's one of the biggest things that I see with quad stretches, okay? So again, the quad stretch, you can either do them walking quad stretch or in place where you just grab your ankle, keep the knee down, and bring it back. Another important tip about the quad stretch is if you guys notice, my knee is not way out left field, right? I'm not stretching with my knee out here. I'm keeping my knees together and back, and then coming down. That's the biggest thing, is keeping that knee together. We do not want to separate the knees outwardly. We want to keep them in together. So those are three main stretches for you guys. Dynamic warm-ups before an exercise. Very important and critical that you guys know that the difference between dynamic and static stretching for optimal performance. We talked about the scoops, we talked about the ankle ups, and we talked about the quad stretches. If you guys have any other questions about stretching or performance in the gym, make sure to leave a comment below or just simply DM me and I'll give you guys more information. Appreciate it.